Once upon a time, a fisherman, as usual, cast his net in the river. He waited patiently in his boat, eating his lunch, when he heard a curious sound. While waiting by the river, he saw a cradle made of crystal come bobbing down the river right up to his boat. The fisherman reached over and grabbed the little package, inside which were coverings of the finest silk he had ever seen. He removed them and saw the faces of two beautiful babies. The fisherman's heart was filled with tenderness, and he took the babies home.
Wife, see who I have found in the river today.
2 babies? We already have 4 children to feed.
So, what would you have rather had me do? Let them drown in the river or starve?
I know. Well, if we have enough food for the 6 of us, we shall have enough for the 8 of us. Food was always aplenty in the fisherman's household, and soon the 2 babies grew up to be a beautiful boy and girl, as gentle as they were wise, and as well-mannered as they were righteous. But the other children were not kind to them, and often said things to them that were mean. "Give me back my doll! Father brought it for me!" "I thought he said we could all share it." "But he is not your father, is he? Found you in a river? Go play with your crystal cradle. That is the only thing that belongs to you." The brother and sister would sometimes become so weary that they would take off to the wood to be by themselves. There they would take the bread they had saved up from their breakfast and crumble it for the birds, who taught them many things in return, such as the language of the birds, ways to live in a forest, how to sing. And one night, after the other children had been particularly mean to them, the orphan brother and sister decided. No matter how hard we try, they just do not like us.
And that puts Mother and Father in a fix. Don't you think it is best that we left? Mother and Father are going to town tomorrow. We shall leave after they have gone.
So that day, when the fisherman and his wife left for the town, the brother and sister left the home into the forest. They walked for 3 days, and by the time it was night, they got very tired. Suddenly, they saw a hut in the distance.
Look there!
You think we should go and see?
We might get some shelter there.
They went to the hut and knocked, but no one was around. Now what do we do?
Well, see, there is a bench here. At least we can rest here for the night.
So they settled down on the bench to rest, but none of them could sleep. As they lay awake, looking at the moon and the stars, they suddenly heard some sounds. There was a huge chatter in the trees nearby, and since they knew the language of birds, they could understand what the birds were doing.
You came here from the city? My, how did you ever think of your poor friends in the forest?
Wow, just a change of air. I have been having cold lately.
Birds also develop cold?
Shh, listen.
So, what is the latest in the big happening city?
Oh, just the usual. The poor king is still miserable. Nothing ever seems to give him solace and peace.
It must have been hard for him, with the queen and the children gone.
Oh no, she has not gone. She has been locked up in the tower.
What do you mean?
Well, I haven't seen it myself, but I know an old cuckoo who lives in the palace garden.
Go ahead. Tell us what you heard.
You do know that the king married a beautiful woman he had fallen in love with?
Of course we do.
You see, the maiden was as wise as she was beautiful, and the king loved her dearly. She found out that some palace officials and ministers were looting the king, and she sought to expose them.
Really?
Yes, but those corrupt officials got wind of this, and when the king had to go to war, they arrested the queen and locked her in a tower.
And the prince and the princess?
they took the twins, put them in a crystal cradle, and sent them floating over the river. The cuckoo says he saw it himself. The moment the brother and sister heard of the crystal cradle, they thought of the cradle they had been put in, floating on the river, when the fisherman had seen them and brought them home. Go play with your crystal cradle. That is the only thing that belongs to you.
Didn't the king try to find them?
Apparently, the corrupt officials told him that, fearing war, the queen had fled with the 2 children. The king does not even know of his wife being locked up in a tower.
What if the real prince and princess went to the palace? Would the king recognize them?
You speak our language? Yes, we do. Some birds like you were kind enough to teach us. The crystal cradle you were speaking of. Well, we were laid in the cradle and sent afloat the river, where a fisherman found us and took us home. That means you are the prince and the princess.
Well, look at their charming manners. Of course they are. But who will believe them? How will they prove who they are to the king?
There is a bird, the bird of truth, the only bird in the whole wide world who can speak the language of men. The bird is aware of every truth in the world. Only he can help you.
Where can we find him?
There is a witch who lives in a cave in the Purple Mountain. She will tell you the way to the castle of Come and Never Go, where the bird is held captive. But before you enter the castle, speak to the owl who can only speak one word of men: cross.
Thank you so much. We shall do whatever it takes to get back to our father. So, the prince and the princess walked into the forest. They were so happy and so eager to meet their father and finally free their mother that they forgot all about their hunger and tiredness and walked on. They finally came to the cave in the Purple Mountain where the witch lived. They bravely knocked on the door. Who dare come here at this unearthly hour? My, what are you doing here?
We need to know the way to the castle of Come and Never Go.
That. You can go tomorrow morning. Till then, why don't you sleep with my lizards? Thank you, ma'am. But we really do want to be on our way. I shall show you the way, only if you get me the water of the many-colored fountain that is in the courtyard of the castle.
Surely, ma'am.
So, the witch gave them a jar in which to bring the water of the many-colored fountain and sent her dog to take them to the castle. Where is that owl? The birds had asked us to speak to him before we entered the castle. Just then, they heard a sound.
Cross! Cross!
The owl!
Good owl. We need to enter the castle of Come and Never Go. We were asked to speak to you before we went in.
Did the witch show you the way?
Yes.
And did she ask you to fetch her the water from the many-colored fountain?
Yes.
Do not do that. Fill the witch's jar instead with the water from the spring that flows next to the many-colored fountain. Next, go inside. There is an aviary with all kinds of birds, each of which will scream to you that it is the bird of truth. But the real bird of truth will be in the corner, a silver dove. Do all of this as fast as a giant comes here every evening at the witch's behest.
Thank you, good owl.
So, the children did exactly as the owl had said. They filled the witch's jar with the water from the spring. They went into the aviary where the birds cried out.
I am the real bird of truth.
Liar, I am the real bird of truth.
No, I am.
No, I am.
The children spotted the real bird of truth, picked him up gently, and ran away from the castle. They reached the witch's cave.
Ah, so you found the real bird of truth, is it? Where is the water from the many-colored fountain? Turn into lizards, both of you!
But instead of becoming lizards, the prince and the princess started glowing and became strong as the water from the spring always did good. Seeing this, all the creatures in the cave clambered for the water, and the witch ran away, never to be seen again. The children went to the palace, but the wicked ministers would not let them in.
We can never show them the bird of truth, or else they will never let us in.
We will just tell them we want to see the king.
What are you two children doing here?
We want to meet the king. We have a small gift for him.
How dare you disturb our king? Off with you, come on!
But the bird of truth flew out of the bag, straight into the king's chambers, through the window, and told the king everything.
So, your good queen is locked in that tower, and your prince and princess wait for you outside the palace.
The king rushed out and hugged his two children. The wicked ministers were arrested, and the good queen was freed from the tower. The king rewarded the fisherman and his wife handsomely for their kindness. And from then on, the prince and princess lived happily ever after with their parents.